Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Paige, Shane Hurd, and Tara Diulus. Exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night, and you are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope you go to their website, check out all their great content, all their great shows, subscribe, and help support an awesome channel. Cover so many different topics. As always, we're endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? And I know last time we were here, last week, we had Bob Spearing on telling us about the new Project Aquarius and Project Mars, but he was, behind the scenes was telling us about some really cool research that he's been doing. So I'm like, you have got to come on the show and share all that. So I'm really excited that Bob will be our guest tonight. I'm looking forward to having him on. I hope that you are all having a wonderful week. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your support of the show. And if you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. Whatever you guys celebrate out there, I hope it's good. I would like to bring on my co-host, Tara Diulus. You can see Tara also right here on live Sky Tour live stream with Mark D'Antonio. I always want to leave that live stream out. Anyway, how you doing, Tara?
Hi, hello, everybody. What's up? What's up?
I know, we're all wondering. It seems like it's like daily, right? In the news, like this topic, back and forth. We're getting close. No, we're not. Oh, we're getting some ground. We're pulling back. I don't know. It's crazy. But before we get started, I know. Before we get started on your meme and your products that you're going to share, I have to tell you, doing that last minute Christmas shopping, I went to the 411 store.
Oh, fun.
And they had these at the register. And of course, in good old Katie style, I'm like, what? They have alien like collectible patches. Like this is series 2. So I went and you don't know what patch you're going to get, but I was lucky I got the ho 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 Christmas one.
I love it.
But look at some of
cool.
these. Yeah. And look at this guy in his camo. You got the camo dude. This guy's awesome. All Americana, red, white, and blue. Mm-hmm. We got the little weightlifting guy, powerlifting, heavy metal on his shirt.
Love his hat.
I like this one. It's the Egyptian game. Yes. So we got. Oh, this one was my least favorite. No, but it's all right. It's kind of.
Has to. Is he the
he's a surgeon. I don't know if he's. I think he's a surgeon. He's the like a surgeon. Hey. This guy's fun. He's like the skeleton there. And let's see what this one was. This I saved the best for last. This was my favorite. Okay. This guy.
What's it
say? He's like an astronaut. He's holding. I think it's like a weapon. But those are the common ones. And then of course, if you're lucky, you get 1 in 100 chance to get the cool alien robot. That's the one I was really wanting to get. And then there's like the alien cow. And then the surprise one. So those are a lot of fun. If you're ever at the 511 store, these are really collectible.
We have those here.
And if you get the rare ones, they're going for like $75 on eBay. So I'm like, I wanted the rare ones. So those are a lot of fun. What do you have for a meme for us tonight, Tara?
Gosh. Well, Katie, you have lots of fun stores where you're at. There's just a lot of little boutiques and everything.
Right. Yeah. So, they're awesome.
Well, today's meme shows a couple in their destroyed home. So wrapped presents are thrown through the window. And why? Well, they just had a visit from Sasquatch Claus. That's hard to say.
Sasquatch Claus.
And the guy's saying to the wife, it was 7 or 8 feet tall, covered in hair and wearing a red hat. So it must have been Sasquatch Claus.
That's funny. Speaking of red hats, I live outside of Colorado Springs and I drive up the canyon by Pikes Peak, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
The curvy. You were there with me. So that canyon we drive up.
Yeah.
I'm looking up at the rocks and somebody hit a Where's Waldo up there. I'm like, oh my God, I found Waldo.
Oh,
How
that's
clever
hilarious.
is that? People need to spread this all across the country and just randomly hide Waldo, because that was a lot of fun.
That's really high up in the mountains there, though. So those people were determined.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, today's product is to the season to decorate, whether it be the mountain, perhaps your tree. So if you have a UFO theme in mind, well, I found on Etsy are UFO ornaments created to match the real things. So you have your pictures of the aliens and the real things. So here from 1967 is the wound socket craft. It's that one right there. There's the picture. And then you can get the ornament for that. So there you go. Put on your tree. Cool. The next one is the 70s beam ship. And here is the ornament for that one. So it's really neat what they can do with 3D printers these days. So, so here, go ahead, Katie.
I was gonna say I want to get the gold paint, the silver paint. I want to paint them.
Paint them. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you can. So this is the picture of the Lubbock lights from 1951. And then you can get the Lubbock like ornaments and paint it. So now going way back to 1561, you guys remember that? The Nuremberg incident? That was that famous woodcut, and they actually have this actual newspaper still in the museum. But that dark object there was a UFO, and that too can hang from your tree.
Or it could be used as a weapon.
It's a little saber.
Sorry.
So here's the fantastic drawing by Barney Hill from the 61 Betty and Barney Hill incident. So Barney drew that from his memory, and here is a reproduction of that craft.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it is really cool. You could, and we're all familiar with these Tic Tacs. And how about one suddenly appearing on your tree?
Or you can get an oversized Tylenol and hang it on your tree. Any medication, really.
Feed on it.
A mini tree full of little white capsules.
How funny. Lastly, we can't forget about that incredible Bob Lazar sketch, right? So you too can have this sport model hanging from your tree. And there it is. So
cool.
Yeah, these are really cool and fun and can be yours where else but on Etsy, where you can find and search for anything, right? So I also wanted to give a quick shout out to our friends at Paranormal Pops. There you can find their Bigfoot Christmas card, which is a solid chocolate dream. The flavors of which are mint and mint chocolate. And, that smells and tastes like the holidays. So very cute. So visit paranormalpops.com for all sorts of fun paranormal chocolates and yummy. So that's what I know. Yum, yum. Yum, yum. So
I've already bought so many things. I got some of the gift wrap you shared. Now I'm going to get some ornaments to paint. So I love the things you find. They're all so great. And, it's not too late to get those things delivered. They have, 2-day shipping now. So you can get some of those if you need a last minute gift. Yeah. So we have a kind of a fun thing for Case of the Week. Our producer, Chanel, runs our back end, had her own sighting. So my Case of the Week, I would like to bring on Chanel and tell us about your sighting. Hi, Chanel.
Hi, Chanel.
Thanks for having me on the show today. Last minute surprise, but
well, for us.
Well, so this sighting occurred on the 9th of this month. That was a Saturday. Just an ordinary kind of day. I had attended a funeral early in the morning, but had gone grocery shopping, and it was about 6:44 p.m. I remember asking my partner what time it was so that I could record it. Unfortunately, I haven't reported it to MUFON yet, so you lovely ladies get to be one of the first to hear about it. But, just mundane, bringing in groceries from the car. With daylight savings, it was kind of dark outside, still a little bit of sunlight, and I happened to look up in the sky and see what I would describe as a boomerang. This shape was of that, a boomerang. However, it was interesting because it was transparent. And so I didn't think that it would be any sort of military craft or an airplane, given I do live by the Salt Lake Airport in Utah, which is where the sighting was in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Although we do have a military base here as well, the
Right.
Hill Air Force Base, so it could have possibly been one of their crafts. But the big giveaway was that it was a translucent boomerang shape that was quite large. It didn't seem like it would be the size of a commercial plane. It seemed a bit bigger than that.
Wow.
And I noticed that it had about 4 to 5 big circles on the underside of the craft. I didn't get my phone out just because I didn't want to lose sight of the
Right.
craft with it being dark and it being transparent. However, I did have my partner with me at the time, and I called him over like, look, look, look. And so we both
Like,
witnessed.
what? Did he see it?
He did, yeah. At first, he thought that I was referring to a cat, but he said by the tone of my voice, he realized that it was something much better than a cat.
That is often the case when you're caught up. I mean, like a genuine sighting of something that you're trying to wrap your brain around. You know, people will often say, well, why didn't you get a photo or a video? I mean, that's happened to me, you know, when I was in the San Luis Valley, because you're just so caught up in the moment of what the heck are you looking at? You forget. So, you
Absolutely.
know.
As far as the flight pattern went with the vehicle, it didn't seem like it was moving super fast, but definitely quicker than you would see a plane go across the sky. With it being fairly large, it kind of made like a weird S pattern through the sky. I do have a pretty big tree in my neighboring yard that I lost track of the pattern for a moment, but we walked out to the street and were able to continue seeing it. I don't recall how it disappeared, or I think we might have just lost it with all the trees. But quite an interesting sighting. No one was hurt, thankfully. So
I'll think.
it
Was this your first sighting, Chanel?
this was both
Yeah.
of our first
Cool.
sightings. Given I do live in Utah, as I stated, so I know that it's a pretty active state. However, we were both pretty excited. I think he was more so excited than I was, given I've heard a lot of different stories working for this network, and not all of them
Yeah.
are great. So
Yeah.
one thing interesting to note too is we do live in a pretty lively area, so there was plenty of people still outside walking their dogs. Or on an evening stroll. However, no one else seemed to be looking up at the sky. So, moral of the story, I guess, is keep your eyes to the sky.
That's what they say. Keep looking up.
I'd be curious to note, and I'll have to check the database to see if any other reports came in for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to message me the exact date of that.
Yeah,
I know I have the time. Yeah, and I'll check it. See if anybody else reported something. Because you know, I'm always curious about that. Like you're right. Not a lot of people are looking up, especially this time of the year. Everybody's looking at their shopping list. Ah!
that is true.
That's so cool.
It wasn't really a cloudy day. I was able to
Huh.
see some stars in the sky and things like that too. So,
You're a great witness.
were the circles lit up? I mean, did it? You say it's
No.
transparent, but it was just sort of a.
When you
that's what I wasn't sure if they were lights or not, because they weren't lit. There were just about 4 or 5 large circles.
Wow.
And I mean, you could see the silhouette of the craft, and the circles kind of looked like that as well, as if you were to like
So interesting.
draw in the sky with like a white pencil.
Any sound or any emissions from it?
Totally quiet, no trails behind it, which was also pretty interesting. And there weren't any flashing lights on the craft either. I wasn't sure what I was looking at first.
Yeah, right. Well, lucky you. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thanks, Chanel. Very
yeah,
cool.
thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's really cool. And you gave me some homework to do too. So,
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
of course, thanks for sharing
Oh,
that with all of us. Yeah. So, Tara, do you have a Mars case?
Well, I do have a Mars case. And so today's Mars case, it goes back, let me find, here's my notes, it comes to us from Lemon Grove, California. And Lemon Grove is a suburb of San Diego. And I think there's a picture, one of the pictures coming up that shows it's kind of by the bay. So there's Lemon Grove. And there's the Bay of San Diego there. So it's pretty populated, just like how Chanel was. And so on November 16th in 1973, at approximately 7 p.m., there were 2 11-year-old boys, and they were playing in a vacant lot near their homes. And The ground was hard clay covered by dead field grass. So as they walked by some bamboo in the open field, they saw a large dark object sitting on the ground in that darkened field. So it was a landed gray craft that was 20 feet wide and about 11 feet tall.
Wow.
So the boys slowly approached it. And after about 5 minutes, they say, one of the boys walked up to it, and get this, he rapped on it 3 or 4 times with his flashlight, and it created a metallic sound. So
Wow.
I know. And so the object immediately came to life, whereas the dome on the top of the object became illuminated with an intense red light. And it lit the entire area, including the boys.
Wow.
So at the same time, when he hit it, and then the light went red, the object rose from the ground about 4 feet, and a row of green lights began to blink in sequence around the peripheral rim. So the boys, there's the first picture of it. The boys reported the object began to make a whoosh, whoosh sound as it began to rotate and rise in the air. And the red lights were now blinking on and off. So it was then that the boys decided to get out of there, right? And so right then. So then they turned and ran until they said they became so weak they couldn't move. Almost like they were running in slow motion, and they even thought they might die. So they looked at the object, and then they watched it disappear into the clouds. So this incident was investigated, and it was found that there were numerous reports of TV interference in the neighborhood that happened around 7:20 p.m. that evening. And also 2 telephone lines in the area were found fused together. The wires were actually melted together, and they had to be completely replaced. What is also interesting is that the investigation revealed indentations in the hard clay. They found 2 holes in the ground, like 6 inches by 6 inches. And a third depression forming an equilateral triangle is also apparent. The dead field grass, it seemed to be lying in a counterclockwise circular pattern. And square holes were found in the clay that had to be formed by something extremely heavy. So there you see this guy. The event also appeared in the local newspapers showing artist renditions of the craft, along with reproducing the original sketches as found in this file. And what's really fun is that the investigators' comments about one of the boys' sketches, and in his notes, there they are investigating the ground right there.
Wow.
It's really cool. So there's the sketches that they reproduced in the newspapers. I'm loving that. And this is the investigator's notes. It says, take time to study this sketch. It's priceless. He banged on the object with his flashlight. An only 11-year-old boy could have done that. And the object suddenly came to life and started whirling, which is pretty amazing. And there it is, showing him banging on the craft right there. That's his. And you see the beams of light, and it started swirling and took off. So funny.
Wow. I wonder
Great
where these
sketch.
boys are. I wonder where these boys are now,
I know.
you know,
I know.
and how it's
Mhm.
impacted their lives.
Yeah.
So
It'd be interesting to be able to follow up on that. But really cool, interesting stuff that can be found in those Mars files. So
I know. And we're
Mhm.
gonna talk to Bob about all of that rollout of MUFON.
Yep.
I think it rolled out actually tomorrow. I think
Is it
it's
tomorrow or
I
the
think.
Friday? I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Bob. He'll be able to
Yeah,
tell
I
us.
think. Do you want to bring him in? We should bring him
Yes.
in. Let me read his bio.
Okay.
We have questions for you, Bob. We need to. Bob is the International Director of Investigations for MUFON. He graduated from Fordham University with a bachelor's in communications. That's what I have too. We have that in common, Bob, with journalism and film production as major concentrations. Bob recently retired from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey after 34 years. Congratulations on your retirement, Bob.
Yes.
That's awesome. Bob joined MUFON in 2014 as a field investigator and has previously been national director at both Spain and India and leads MUFON's special assignment team. Bob was MUFON's Field Investigator of the Year in 2018. Bob has long been involved with various special projects, including the Mars Project, the Pine Bush, New York UFO Museum, the MUFON member social network called the Observer Network, and the MUFON UFO Map App. He has had numerous articles published in various UFO-related magazines around the world, including 4 MUFON Journal cover stories, and he has appeared in several television series as a photo analyst, including UFOs, The Lost Evidence, and Ancient Aliens. A lifelong UFO enthusiast, after reading Frank Edwards' Flying Saucers, Serious Business as a child in the 1960s, I think he's had 3 UFO sightings of his own, which we'll get into him about right away. And that's what kind of sparked his interest in the phenomenon. And he lives in Eastern Pennsylvania with his beautiful wife and his twin boys. So welcome to the show, Bob Spearing. Glad to have you on, Bob. Hello again.
Hello again. Long time no see.
Yes.
Right. You getting all geared up for the holidays?
We are. We actually just set up the Christmas tree the other night.
That's a little late, don't you think, Bob?
Yeah, we used to try to do it on Thanksgiving, but things have been a little busy with Project Aquarius and stuff right now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I did have 3 sightings. I need to update that because I've now had 5 cover stories at the journal. The current December journal is my cover story.
Oh, awesome. That just came in the
what
mail. Yeah.
Oh, it's downstairs on my table. I need to open it and look at it. That's Bob's story. Oh, do you have it in front of you? I'll get it during break and I'll share it. As I was reading that, I was thinking, I think you just had another cover story. So that's awesome. You do great work, Bob. And, that's why I'm excited to talk to you about some of these new things that you're talking about. But before we get into talking about Project Aquarius and Mars, I want to touch on those 3 sightings you had. How old you were, where they were, what you saw.
In 1986, I was camping in Round Valley Reservoir.
Where's that?
A remote part of New Jersey. Okay, towards Pennsylvania, and it's a man-made lake. It's a reservoir, but it's just surrounded by forest. And it was raining one night. This is 1986, August of 1986, and it was raining, very heavy cloud cover. Late at night, I was sitting on an overturned canoe with a friend of mine, and we saw this pink light underneath the clouds coming towards us over this 7-mile wide reservoir. And we watched it for a while, and all of a sudden it started dropping, stop, semicircle, stop, took off. And I knew nothing of what I was looking at. Me and my friend looked at each other. What the heck was that? Years later, I joined MUFON basically because I found a book by a Pennsylvania field investigator named Terry Ray, who wrote a book called The Complete Story of the Worldwide Invasion of Orange Orbs. And I said, other people saw what I saw, and it turns out that probably half the MUFON database and other databases contain orb reports. So anyway, I was interested. I got into MUFON. The second one that I had was I was on a train going to Newark, New Jersey, across the New Jersey Meadowlands, and I just looked out the window, and the train was going about 60 miles an hour, and maybe 1,000 feet out, maybe 1,000 feet up, there was this silver sphere. It was as plain as day. It was as size of a quarter and round, and it was just pacing the train. And when we hit the Newark skyline, it just shot up and went over the buildings and was gone. So
wait. Hold on. I have to stop you right there for a minute. What? So it's pacing the train. It's the size of a quarter, like next to the
no. Yeah, apparent size. It was probably, I'd say, the size of a Volkswagen in actual size.
Okay.
So from the distance, if you put your thumb over it, it was a little bigger than my thumb, quarter size. So it just was, and we get tons of those reports of silver spheres, and they go back decades. So I don't know what the thing was. The weird one that I had was I was coming back from Quebec, and I was going through the Adirondack Mountains. Me and my family call it the Dead Zone. It's sort of near Lake Placid, and I'm like the only car on the road. It's the middle of winter. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and there was a clearing in the trees, and there was a sheer cliff. And climbing up this cliff was this square object with like triangle wheels. It was if you took 2 tractor trailers and put them together, that's how big this was. And it was just clumping up the side of a cliff. And like I went, what the? and I made a U-turn and I went back, and when I got back to the spot, it was gone. The thing is, I never saw anything like it. It was literally climbing up a cliff, and there's no civilization anywhere. There's no roads but the one I was on.
Weird.
So I don't know what this thing was, what it was doing, but it was designed to do something in the middle of nowhere. It was the scariest, weirdest thing I ever saw.
That is bizarro. And I've had a kind of a similar thing happen a little bit on a very busy road here in Colorado, Smoky Hill Road, Centennial. It's like really populated, middle of the day, and there was this like copper bronze looking round sphere, like what you're talking about, but it was a very distinct color. And I thought this must be like a drone somebody's flying or something. I do a U-turn. I'm looking for people outside. It was just gone. There was no people outside, no drone. I don't know what that was, but what you're describing, Bob, this like going up a cliff, like maybe it was like looking for something geological in nature.
Yeah, but it was just no matter what it was, no matter how weird it was, it just should not have been where it was.
That's weird.
Right.
When was that sighting? What year was that?
So it was somewhere between 2012 and 2016. I was going up to Quebec City a lot. I love Quebec City, so I traveled up there a lot before COVID.
Golly, that is really, really
Very
strange.
cool. Very strange.
Right. Can we kind of get into some of your orange orb research? Talk to us about, like, are they all orange? Do you see other colors? What have you, because you've been doing this for a while. Tara, Bob, and I were all part of the Mars project, and we're all part of the team of redacting. So I know even during those years, you were really, really heavily investigating these. So
Oh no, don't take
Yeah,
that one
yeah,
down. That's what we're
yeah.
going to talk about later. I don't want
Cool.
jumping the gun. Jumping the gun.
All
I-
these names, they seem the same.
you know, my research has taken me in so many different places
right.
that I actually moved away from orbs. But the major takeaways about orbs, I believe, is that it's more than one phenomenon. I
Okay.
think they fall under an umbrella of things.
Hmm.
One, a lot of them are uh, natural phenomena like ball lightning, and it's a very
Okay.
misunderstood weather phenomenon. So, in one sense, it's a natural phenomenon. And
Mhm.
then, if especially, and we've talked about him before, Albert Rosales' humanoid series books, he details a lot of cases of orbs that turn into little aliens, that turn into Bigfoot, that turn into men, and then it goes the opposite way too. All right. So, are we dealing with some sort of paranormal aspect to the orb experience? And then there's a third type of orb, and we believe that they're actual spherical vehicles, like I saw from the train that day, and that they can wrap themselves in a plasma. So there's actually a vehicle, but it's surrounded by a plasma, and it falls literally under the same category of orbs. But the reason that we believe these vehicles, these spheres, are covered in a plasma goes back to Ted Rowe from NARCAP. Several years ago, we had a very, very interesting case of an object pacing a plane, a FedEx plane going from Mexico to Tennessee, and it stayed with the plane for 33 minutes at 500 miles an hour. And as soon as it hit the United States border, it made a right turn and left. Had it been a natural weather, if it had been a natural weather phenomenon, it probably would have hit the plane and exploded when
Right.
it hit the rod. So Ted Rowe believes that the reason it was surrounded by plasma is that plasma absorbs radar signals, and the pilot actually videotaped the object outside the cockpit, panned down to his TCAS anti-collision radar, and it was nothing there. All right. So the United States military right now is experimenting with shooting plasma screens in front of like F-35 fighter jets, because if, say, they were going to do a mission and take out something in Iran, and the Iranian, missile batteries with the radars are looking for the planes, the radar will hit the screen of plasma and it will absorb the radar signal. So it'll look like there's no plane
Interesting.
there. So
Is
it's three different phenomena as far as I'm concerned, the orb phenomena.
That's incredible. So You kind of talked about the airplanes, and so what about collision avoidance systems for these type of phenomena? What is there anything happening that you know of now in that?
No, not that I know of. I know that all commercial vehicles, all commercial aircraft, have what's called a TCAS system, and it can see above the plane, below the plane, anything coming towards them that would set off an alarm. And this thing was literally 30 feet away from the cockpit, and nothing registered on the TCAS. So it was
Wow.
obviously superior to the plane's ability to detect it. What's strange, though, is that if it was that sophisticated, why didn't it continue into the United States? It
That's what
obviously it sensed that the United States must have had a system that could
that's what I was
penetrate it
thinking.
and see it. And the last question with that case would be, what was on the FedEx plane that was so interesting to these objects?
That's an interesting question. Oh, my brain just went boop, 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 a whole bunch of things. Yeah, you answered
That's
the question
hilarious.
before I asked it, but I was wondering if that's why it didn't come into the United States, because maybe we're able to detect them
Detect.
where other detect them when others cannot. Yeah, and that's a good point. What was on that plane that was so interesting
The
to the
pilot
ETs?
the pilot
Yeah.
said that the manifest said they were carrying auto parts from a Ford plant in Mexico City.
They
So
are hard to get. You know, there's a
They
waiting list for
are.
these parts. So that's why all the
Even the
aliens
UFOs
are.
need
Oh,
good ships.
we're on to something. The aliens are taking the dang parts. This is what's happening.
hey, I wanted to go back to something earlier in the show. You showed the Nuremberg 1561
Yes.
incident with the orbs and the crosses and the big black spear
Yeah,
at the
the
bottom.
weapon.
You know,
I-
I've
I'll
researched
find that
that a
show.
lot. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I corresponded with the Zurich City Librarian, where this collection is housed.
Cool.
It's in something called the Wick Collection, and basically Hans Glaser, the guy that did this drawing, there's actually 4 copies of this. The library has 2. They don't know where the other 2 copies are, but
Huh.
Mm.
there's another version of this, and it's on the internet. All right, but you really got to look for it. The black spear at the bottom in one of their drawings in their collection doesn't have those cuts and grooves in it. It's simply black all the way through. Okay.
Hmm.
The other thing is that's interesting is the cylinders are of 2 types. One, like the one at the top right, opens a hatch to let the ball out. The other ones come out
Oh.
as if there's windows in them and they can be seen. Okay.
Mhm.
In the lower left corner, if you have a really good copy of this where the smoke is, it's actually a
Yeah.
crashed
I
cylinder.
was going to ask about that. Yeah, there's a crash.
It's a crashed cylinder and there's actually balls going around it as if it's some sort of rescue operation. Okay.
Hmm.
The thing that's most interesting to me is the spear, because the spear came later in the day. Okay. That morning when this occurred, the sun was already up. In North America it was still dark, but in Europe the sun was up. So these weren't glowing nighttime orbs. This was a daytime event. Okay. The spear, I believe, because I'm big into the time travel theory, it has a very, very close resemblance to a B-1 bomber. Okay. And the cuts and grooves in it, I believe that it was coming in for a landing and that it had its
Oh.
flaps down. And I've been under a B-1 bomber out at I forget, it was Elmendorf or something when I was traveling around the United States. And it does have similar flaps. So, what the heck was a 21st century, you know, nuclear bomber doing over Nuremberg hours after this UFO battle? And there's a
Huh.
lot of interesting things were going on in 1561. There was a battle that day in Croatia, and
Mm.
basically, uh, the Muslims were coming up with the intent to go around Croatia down into Rome and sack Rome, the Christian capital of the world. And it was this mysterious battle. And I have tried to research this with the Croatian universities.
Mhm.
What happened in that battle? And there are no details about it, but a small
Hmm.
garrison of Croatians crushed this massive army and prevented Rome from being destroyed.
They
And
had help.
I always wondered, yes, if they had help. And
Hmm.
that's where I'm
Sounds like
eventually
it.
going to go tonight when we get into our main topic. It's a question of, did
Cool.
they have help?
Interesting. All right. So now I'm like, do we want to start there, or let's maybe talk about, let's do this. We have about what, 25 minutes, 20 minutes or so before break. Why don't we talk about Mars and Aquarius? Because I think that's rolling out tomorrow, right? On the 20th.
Hmm. Basically, what's happening tomorrow is what we call the pre-launch sales day. So we wanted
Okay.
this to be a Christmas present for people, and so
Yay.
we really rushed to get it out in time. So if you actually go to the MUFON website tonight, you'll actually see that we're set up to
Cool.
launch sometime tomorrow morning with the two types of membership. One, Project Aquarius will be a standalone $50 subscription. You don't have to be a member of MUFON to get it. It's $50 for a 1-year subscription. And it's going to offer 6 of the 7 rooms we anticipate
Cool.
having.
Right.
As I mentioned last week, the one room, the newspaper archives room, which has thousands of newspaper articles and will have many more. When I was at the MUFON headquarters 3 weeks ago, I put together a box, a banker's box of probably another 3,000 clippings we have to
Cool.
scan.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot more coming, but that room is going to be free,
Eric.
free to the public. Anybody on Earth is going to be able to access
Cool.
the public domain newspaper clippings room,
Yeah.
basically because we got it for free.
Right.
We want to give it to the world for free. The other
Right.
rooms will be behind a paywall. The other way you can get Mars is if you want an enhanced VIP membership. That's a little pricey, but you get MUFON
Right.
TV and a lot of other
So
stuff, plus
we
Aquarius.
we have a graphic of the doors up here.
Mhm.
So the news clippings gallery door, that's going to be just free, no membership required. Do I have that
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
So as of tomorrow, everybody listening,
Oh, no,
tomorrow,
what,
no,
tomorrow,
tomorrow, no.
tomorrow, you can purchase the subscription in time for
Okay.
Christmas to make it a Christmas
Okay.
present.
Oh,
D-Day, launch day, is New Year's Eve.
okay.
All
New
right.
Year's
Okay.
Eve. New Year's Eve, everybody needs to go through that news clippings gallery door. Can you talk a little bit, Bob, about the other doors?
Okay, the witness sketch gallery is something I put together with another field investigator. God
Fun.
bless him. It's about 7,000 drawings that we pulled from
Cool.
the CMS. Now, you were showing earlier drawings from the Mars collection, which is 6,000 pages of our computerized sightings that people actually mailed into us. At some point, I will be going through them and pulling out the drawings and adding it to the witness sketch gallery.
Oh, that doesn't even include those.
Because
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
we took 135,000 CMS cases and just scoured them for
Wow.
drawings, illustrations, architectural drawings, paintings.
Holy
People
smokes.
paint. They make paintings of what they've
Yes.
seen, and
Process.
they range from simple stick figure drawings to absolute masterpieces. And two things that I discovered when putting this together is that the enormous amount of people drawing the same thing is off the charts.
Mhm.
Especially, I saw chevrons. The amount of chevron drawings we have is astonishing, and the colors of the lights on the bottom of them, the size of the lights, almost like what Chanel was talking about before. They're all similar. People have been seeing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And the other pattern we found was that during certain periods, because these drawings more or less go in chronological order by case number, there are some historical ones out of sync, but
Yeah.
you'll find that in a certain range of cases that it's only triangles. In another range of
Interesting.
cases, it's a certain type of disc with red lights on the bottom, which shows that people are seeing the same or similar type objects during certain
Nice.
time periods. Yeah, so it was really fascinating what we discovered doing the
Wow.
drawings gallery, and I think it's going to be a great visual tool for researchers.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
the drawings gallery, the newspaper clippings gallery, all of the MUFON journals are going up. We're missing 2 years, 2011 and 2012. So if
Hmm.
anybody can find them for us, we'd
I
appreciate it. But we're going to have every
I have
MUFON
them.
You have 'em?
I think I
Uh,
have them.
from the original Skylook magazine,
Yeah,
1967, and then the journals. I think it's 43 years we're putting up.
Cool.
All right,
that's
up
amazing.
until 2010. We're missing 2012, 11, and 12, and then 2013 are the modern ones that you need a MUFON membership for. So we're going from
Right.
67 to 2010 right now. Lots and lots of stuff. And thank you, Eric. I just
Thank
saw
you,
that.
Thanks,
Eric.
Eric.
That's
Very
nice.
kind.
We're also going to have the symposium proceedings. We have every
Cool.
symposium proceeding from 1971 up until 2010. I just sent our IT guy a few of the more modern ones. So we're going to have 40 years of symposium
That's
proceedings.
awesome.
A
And
lot.
for people that don't know, that's the booklet that you get when you go to a MUFON
Mhm.
convention, and it will list what the topics that are going to be spoken about, who the speakers are. And when you
Right.
look back on 30, 40 years of speakers that spoke at MUFON, it's an amazing
Wow.
amount of
And
people who are.
those they in those a lot of those MUFON proceedings, they give a synopsis and sometimes even have photos of their slides. I mean, they're great for
Mm-hmm.
researchers as well.
Yeah.
I have the majority of them. Actually, you can see all of those down here on my shelf are all the proceedings. So yeah, I think they're invaluable. So that's
Good.
cool.
Well, Katie, we're missing 4 years of proceedings, so I might
Let
be
me know
sending
what's
you a
yours.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Katie.
I probably
Um,
have them. I don't think
Bob,
I'm
I have
missing any. So
a question, Bob. What about any videos or pictures that may MUFON has? Are they ever going to have access to those? Because I know, like the Mars files, we just had photocopies of pictures, and it said, "Oh, there was a
that's hard.
video," or things got, But what about those?
Good
Can you share
question.
with us
well,
what's happening with that?
it's interesting because I went to Cincinnati several weeks ago to see what they had that we could still possibly use in the future, and one of the cases I found were literally decades of video presentations by the actual speakers with their slide
Oh,
presentations, and they're all on discs, and there's a lot of them. So
That's
in
cool.
in somewhere between March and Memorial Day, when we put up the Leonard Stringfield files, which have to be
cool.
redacted yet, we're also going to try to put up this entire video library, and we're also going to be launching the multi-level interactive UFO map of numerous databases that we've put together, and will graphically portray where you can click on something, and it will open up and tell you, the long narrative, and you'll be able to search by shape, by date range, by
That's awesome.
country, and then that map will also have the NICAP chronology. AFU in Sweden is giving us the Swedish Norwegian databases. So
Wow.
it's going to be, yeah. Debbie Ziegelmeyer, one of our board members, has a database of USO sightings with latitudes and longitudes. That's going to be another level. So it's just a fantastic amount of stuff. But right now, the private collection room, which is one of the six rooms we're launching,
Mhm.
all the way there on the left. We have,
Okay.
most famously right now, the Captain Ruppelt Blue Book personal files. He had 120
Wow.
folders,
Oh wow.
and I've
Nice.
gone through some of them, and the letters are astonishing. Just one example that I mentioned somebody the other day. He actually inquired about Eisenhower meeting an alien at Holloman. So it's actually in the Blue Book files that he was interested in if Eisenhower did meet with some sort of entity at
Cool.
an airfield. So that's the type of stuff that's in there. We're also going to have the John Warren collection. He's not well known, but it's a lot of very, very interesting technical information.
Oh,
A lot of
fun.
these collections have additional newspaper clippings. Ruppelt collected a lot of
Mm.
very odd, weird stuff. He was very interested in a certain forest fire in the 1950s in California, and collected dozens of articles just on that one topic. So it's going to take researchers a year to go through everything that's in the Ruppelt files.
Oh,
The other
interesting.
thing that we have is the mythical and possibly never existed MJ12 Majestic group. MUFON
Mm.
collected an an incredible amount of information on trying to determine if this was an actual group or not. We have one whole drawer of a file cabinet that goes from like the 1940s up until 1981 with all
Cool.
sorts of reports, and it looks at if MJ12 actually existed. That's going to be in the collection room. We
For
also
debate.
Mhm.
found Humcat back in the late 70s, early 80s. David Webb and Tim Blockner, I don't know how to pronounce his name, famous old time UFO researchers. They created what was called Humcat, and Humcat is available, but it's very hard to find. It's all of the humanoid sightings from the year 1790 up until
Oh,
1981. I'm telling you,
cool.
this is so worth $50. It's not funny. All right. And the last thing Dave McDonald, our executive director, said to me, he goes, "Hey, it's our mission. This we should have put this out a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now it's here." And of course,
Yay.
Mars is another room with the 6,000 pages of drawings that you, Katie, worked so diligently on for so many years.
Yes,
So
yes.
thank
I
you.
can't
Great
well,
leadership. Mhm.
thank all of you. And we had a great team of like 15 of us. So it
Yep.
wasn't just me. I just was organizing the thing. But I have to say, I can't tell you how happy I am that MUFON is putting this information out, because you're right. That's part of the mission statement, to
Mhm.
educate the public on this
Mhm.
topic. And, they're holding on to decades worth of so many interesting reports. Now, that being said, Bob, what do you think? I mean, as somebody who goes through and does case of the week, or even Tara who goes through the Mars and pulls these cases, it's interesting to see how investigators investigated things back pre laptop and computers and post laptop and all that. But it's also comes down to, it's almost as if, I think, for researchers in particular, having access to some of the, especially the old newspaper clippings and things, because as part of the Mars team, it was like, okay, we have to redact personal names and different information. But with those newspaper articles, they did not redact those, and those newspapers are left that way, so you can get the names of people. And if a particular area interests you in this topic, you have names to go back and reference and try to contact and basically reopen and investigate the cases. Because my question to you, Bob, is, how do you know how something was vetted or validated? And sometimes it's hard to know. And what do you recommend for researchers that want to go back and re-examine some of these old historical cases?
Well, what we do now is sort of lazy compared to what they did years ago. They would go knock on somebody's door and sit down and interview them and look in the backyard. A lot of investigators these days just do it over the telephone or email contact if the event's over and there's no evidence or whatever. So in a way, ufology's sort of gotten a little lazy. The thing that you'll see that's different from 50 years ago is that entities and UFOs were less concerned about being seen than they are today. All right, we
Oh,
always get those
interesting.
the crappy pictures of UFOs, and I think it's because whoever the visitors are, they're much more diligent about being seen. Whereas 50 years ago, 60 years ago, the reports that we got are quite different than today. Like
Yeah.
two boys going up and rapping on the shell of a spacecraft with
Yeah.
It's like,
you don't see that anymore. The
hey,
other
hey, you, come
Open
out.
up.
We want to play.
the other thing you don't see anymore are electric interference cases with
Yeah.
automobiles, and
Right.
and that's basically because the wiring insulation is so good today
Oh,
that that's the real reason why you don't get those type of cases anymore.
fascinating.
So the study and the other problems you have today that you didn't have 50, 60 years ago is you don't have to deal with CGI and AI. In the past 10 years, we've had to deal with drones, which never existed before. So,
Mhm.
so old time UFO research and investigation is a totally different animal than
It
what
is.
it is today.
Yeah. And Bob, I wonder if some of those cases are similar to the Mars cases, because in those investigative files, you have handwritten notes by like the head of MUFON's investigations and the field investigators, and you can learn so much about how they did the investigation and what they didn't think about, and it just kind of gives you some great ideas. So, you can learn a lot from how things were vetted based on some of those personal notes.
I'll give you the best example. When I was on Katie's redacting team, the case that
Mhm.
landed for me to redact was the Cash Landrum affair,
Oh,
and that PDF file alone was 80 pages,
right.
and and
Oh,
John
goodness.
Schussler went into so much detail. All right, he
Mhm.
visited them he visited the two ladies in the hospital when they had radiation sickness. All right, he took
Right.
copious notes. That that alone is a case study that everybody who gets Mars should go look for the
Yeah.
Cash Landrum
Right.
report that John Schussler did. It's amazing.
Yeah. Is the Travis Walton? I know that one was like 200 and some plus pages, or maybe even over 300.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting, a lot of these, big, huge PDF files that were in Mars would contain, like, you had the whole Phil class all of that stuff. So you had this whole dialogue and the investigator notes and this, that,
Mhm.
and the other thing. And it was so cool when I found, we found that the Travis Walt file basically, and there was some things in there Travis didn't even have. So, it's really cool to get that back to him,
Do you know
So,
what I always thought was interesting about the Travis Walton case? Another, I'm into patterns and I'm into time travel. All right,
yeah.
that's my two.
Mm.
That's my gig.
Love it.
That's your thing. That's what you do.
If
Right.
Travis was hit by a beam of blue light, all
Yes.
right, I have 80 pages of blue beam UFO cases in my files.
Wow.
All right. And
Really?
yeah, and not only that, these blue beams served different functions. Okay. There's one
Mhm.
case in, I believe it's Lou Farish's files that an object with a blue beam took out a Russian radar station. So it was a weapon. But it was a scanning device. There was a case in England, two cases in England in 1995 in Yorkshire, and in one, a police officer saw what looked like an odd object, called in to see if it was a helicopter over a highway about a mile away. The object suddenly beeline to him, shot a blue beam down on his Land Rover. He was afraid to get out of it, and when the beam went off, he got out. He looked up, and it was a massive triangle over his head, and he theorized that nothing happened to him because abducting a police officer might be more trouble than it's worth. Okay, so he was scanned and say rejected for abduction. Three
Huh.
months 3 months later, in northern Yorkshire, maybe 30 miles away, a girl was in the field reading a book up against a tree.
Oh no.
Black triangle comes up. All right, 3 months difference between these two cases. Scans her, abducts her. She said it was little
Mhm.
grays. All right, and when she's returned, she was about 500 feet away from the book. So it's also a tractor beam. Okay, and then when COVID came about, we started to realize that uh, germs can be destroyed by using blue light. Okay, so they're using it on a lot of buses and trains now. So we also believe that this blue beam can serve as a disinfecting agent before an abduction.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's really interesting. We only
Yeah.
have like 4 minutes to break, but the same thing kind
Wow.
of goes with the little bit that I've studied, and I haven't did a deep dive like you do, Bob, but the little bit I've read and investigated the blue orb phenomenon, some people say that they're healing and other people say they're harmful. What do you think about that?
It's interesting as far as orbs go. I, I I think that there's a lot of evil going on as far as the UFO phenomenon.
Mhm.
But with orbs, again, I go back to Albert Rosales' books, which are just
Yeah,
fantastic.
I love them.
In the reports that he has, where orbs turn into beings, sometimes small, sometimes big, they'll have conversations with each other in front of the witness, and they'll say, "This one is sick. Let's heal him." And all of a sudden, the guy
Wow.
goes to doctor and his cancer's gone, and all they did was turn back into a ball and disappear. So the cases that I've seen in Albert Rosales' books suggest that orbs, at least the ones that turn into beings and then back into orbs, have some sort of ability to cure people.
Do you think they're a drone, or what could these orbs be?
Well, I mean, I've looked into them for years. They have certain behaviors. I always talk about the Mary Jones case in Wales in 1905. She was a preacher trying to do a revival, and whenever she spoke at this particular church, these orbs would come and hang out over the church. And when she'd leave, they'd follow her home. And there were so many people who saw this. It had to happen. When she'd leave in her carriage, they would follow her. When she'd make a right turn, they'd make a right turn. They stayed with her for an entire summer. Okay. So there's so many cases, of orb-like behaviors where if people try to surround them, there are cases where people tried to trap an orb and it instinctively knows how to go back. One woman screamed and it shot off, but you can't surround an orb. It will always get away. It's almost as if it has some sort of rudimentary intelligence, at least.
Interesting.
Wow, that is so fascinating. So we have 1 minute to break here. When we come back from break, I forgot to mention to give you a heads up, but I started a new little game, Bob, called An Evening on Earth with an Extraterrestrial. So I'll give you the break to think about it. It's where on Earth would you be? What food would you serve? What movie would you want them to watch? What music would you listen to? And what one question would you ask? So we'll play that after the break. But, speaking of books and things like that, where's your book? Because you have done so much work. Are you thinking about perhaps publishing a book? Because we'd all love one from you.
Yeah, I'm over 400 pages right now. As a matter of fact, I need to add another chapter, and that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. Yeah, what I've been doing is I write them as articles, and pretty much they either go to the MUFON Journal or to Outer Limits magazine in England. And so pretty much I'm hoping this one that I'm going to show you tonight is going to be my last chapter. I've submitted this to Outer Limits magazine, so hopefully what I'm showing you here is going to be an article in February that's published.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Kathleen, we'll ask about your question when we get back from break, but it is break time, so we will see you on the other side. I just love that little film music. Shout out to my son Jesse who created that for us. Anyway, so let's play An Evening on Earth with an Extraterrestrial with Bob. There we go. All right. So, Bob, your favorite ET person? I guess an ET wouldn't be a person. Being comes down to Earth.
Humanoid.
Humanoid. Where on Earth would you like to have dinner with this ET?
Ayers Rock.
Where's that?
The very center of the Australian outback. It's a huge red rock that's the remnant of a mountain range, and it's got all sorts of petroglyphs going around it, and it's one of the most fascinating places on Earth, also one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
Cool.
All right, hold on, let me write this down.
I see pictures of that. It's fascinating.
Okay, and you're having a drone fly in your food that you want the ET to try. What food would you like him to try? Him or her? It?
Sushi. Sushi is my favorite. My favorite food. Yep.
Really? Okay.
Tuna or salmon sushi. I don't know
how. You love sushi or you don't. Yeah. I'm a don't. Actually, it was in Phoenix, Tara, Stacy, right? It's like, Katie, gosh darn it, we're taking you to a sushi bar. And I did all right. There's some of it wasn't so bad.
You know who wasn't there?
I can't eat squid or octopus sushi. That's you know what I mean. It's tuna or salmon, and I would lay off the wasabi with the alien.
That's
right?
Hot, right? That's hot.
Yeah,
that would be pretty funny though to see the reaction, just for fun.
Would he rub it on his skin to eat it?
Oh no. Okay, and what music is playing, Bob?
Floyd Well, it'd
Oh,
have to
nice.
be Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of
Right.
the Moon, some sushi on a big red rock in Australia. Okay.
Sounds
And
great.
what movie are you going to recommend?
I got my favorite. I'm going to sound sentimental here, but I always liked Starman. All
Oh,
right.
that's a
Oh,
good one.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh,
Oh, it's a good one.
it's a really really nice story. Really
Mhm.
really nice story. Yep.
Is it animated?
No,
No, it's
No.
was it Jeff
I was gonna
Bridges
say Jeff.
and Karen Allen. He comes down as a ball of energy. 'Cause we send out Voyager, and it gets picked
Ah.
up, and they think they're being invited here. So he comes as a ball of energy. He goes into he crash lands, goes into this woman's house, and she's asleep. She's watching movies of her recently deceased husband, who is Jeff Bridges,
Oh.
and the alien takes the form of her husband.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Oh.
tries to communicate with her, and then basically the United States government's after him, and it comes to a really cool climax. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of like a love
Okay.
story, CIA
I might
movie.
have to watch that one tonight. Have either of you here, Tara, have you seen No One Will Save You yet on Netflix?
No, I haven't.
I'm
Oh, I'm gonna
you
write it
seen
down
that?
again.
Have you seen that, Bob? No One Will Save You on
No,
Netflix.
nope,
There's
nope,
no dialogue, zero dialogue in the film. I've seen it
really.
3 times. Best UFO. I think I love it. You guys have to watch it. Have to watch it. All
Okay,
right. Okay.
wait,
So
wait. Just let me tell you, the most serious UFO movie that I liked was The Arrival
yeah,
several
that's
years
a good
ago.
one.
What a twist to that one. So, okay, next question.
Yeah, I think it is Netflix, but it could be Hulu. I'm not sure. Somebody out there maybe knows in the chat. I don't know. I've really thought about it, but it's one of those. So yeah, No One Will Save You. I recommend that. But oh yeah, she's seen that 3 times, Kathleen. Oh, let's get to your question again. She asked about a red orb. What do you think about the red orbs that people say to stay away? Are the red ones bad?
Well, I know that the red ones are the majority. Orange
Hulu.
red is by
It's Hulu.
far the
Mhm.
most predominant color. Um, I don't, in my experience, I don't see most of the time orbs sort of want to stay by themselves. All right. They have
Yeah.
peculiar patterns. They'll like break into, multiple ones, recombine, drop things. It's like, as far as, should you stay away from them? Uh, I mean, there's different kinds of orbs. There's also like the type of orbs that people claim to see in cemeteries, which are like paranormal.
Yeah.
So, in my experience, from a technical point of view, looking at them as possible UFOs, I think that they're craft, all right, with a purpose. Whoever's piloting them, or remotely or otherwise, that it's a weather phenomenon, or that it's some sort of transformation of one being from an orb to some sort of shape that we would recognize, in which case are we dealing with an alien entity or something that's interdimensional. But the majority of orb cases that I've studied, there's nothing violent. But I do have a theory about spontaneous combustion, and I believe that all of these cases over the centuries, even Charles Dickens, about spontaneous combustion. These people, they're found burned to death to a crisp in a chair, and nothing else ever goes on fire around them. My theory is that they come in contact with ball lightning, because ball lightning can go through glass windows, it can come up through storm drains, and then it explodes, and it can actually set you on fire. And I think that if people researched when the spontaneous combustion occurred, and if there was a thunderstorm before it happened,
How
I tend to
interesting.
think that it could be ball lightning interacting with the person and killing them purely in a
That's
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing
Mhm.
that happens. And I know on the ranch in the APRA report, the John Durr, PhD, the seismologist, talks about earthquake lights as well, which is
Mhm.
and that's another reason for these energy balls of light to our earthquake lights. Okay, last question. You get one question for this ET. What is it going to be, Bob?
Um. Uh. uh, sh- uh,
It's a hard one.
does he know how the world's gonna end?
Oh,
Oh, you would want to know.
no, he's just asking if he knows. Do you want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
Do you want to know? I don't know if I'd want to know.
I would want to know, and it goes back to another pattern. If we're going to talk about patterns again,
Okay.
that I wrote a chapter on that was published in Outer Limits magazine. People who are brought onto a spaceship, sat in front of a huge television screen, and are forced to watch scenes of Earth's destruction. Do you know how
Ugh.
prevalent that pattern is in ufology? Why would aliens come across a galaxy just to sit you down in front of a big screen and make you watch the end of the world? All right. Is it to get a
Trauma.
rise? Is it some sort of psychological experiment? All right. But aliens seem to want to do that. All right. So that if I met an alien, that would be the question I'd want to know. So do you know how the world ends?
Right. Maybe they want us to wake up and come to our senses. I mean, you hear that a lot, save the planet, and a lot of people get very
Mhm.
environmentally aware and all that stuff. So it could be one reason. All right. So I want to get into, Bob, your research that you've been delving in, this extra chapter you're going to add to your book. So if you can introduce us to what it is you've been researching.
Okay, I have to go back to last year. We had
Okay.
when I do the cases of interest presentation every summer at the MUFON Symposium, and one of the cases we had uh, was that two pilots were flying, one from Australia and one from Hawaii towards Vancouver, and both planes caught up with each other, and they saw what looked like a mile long cylinder with satellites going around it. Several days later, and one of the pilots filmed it. And I'll show you a picture of it in a bit. Uh, the same month, August of 2022, there was also the Catalina Island case where there were the racetrack lights. This is the same month, also in the Pacific, and the one pilot saw what looked like lights going around and around and around. Another pilot going the other way saw what looked like a long cylinder. So we investigated this thoroughly with the MUFON photo analysis team, and it turned out that it was actually a Falcon 9 releasing a chain of Starlink satellites. Okay,
All right.
Oh,
and
cool.
from far away, a pilot at like 40,000 feet, looking at something they believe is 60 miles away, it looks like one long object. And this particular object had a dark spot at one end of it on the left side, all right, which turns out to be important because the object was going east around the globe. And that dark spot was actually the Falcon 9, and the long white line after that were the Starlinks. Okay, so we started getting a lot of these type of cases after May of 2019, and that's because the first Starlink was launched in May of 2019. All right.
Right.
A lot of cases.
So
Yeah,
yes,
so much so there's a disclaimer on the site.
Yeah.
If you've seen this,
A lot.
turn
Yeah.
around.
and we have a special thing on the CMS, investigator report called rapid close. If you
Right,
can
yeah.
determine it was a Starlink satellite, don't waste your time for an hour, investigating the report. If you can prove it
Yeah.
that it was Starlink launch 135, you can close the case in like 2 minutes. All right,
Right.
that's called rapid close. So I thought that was fascinating, and
Yeah.
then I started to see that there was a similar phenomenon that was happening before May of 2019. And that just took me down a rabbit hole. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So
Love
so
rabbit holes.
so here we go.
I have
So-
abundance.
So like everybody else, I'm fascinated with Elon Musk. Some people think he's a good guy, a free speech absolutist. Some people think, he's nefarious, and there's all sorts of stuff about him. What's going on in his head? Because he claims that he's, slightly autistic, but he's a genius in a certain way, and he wouldn't be so unless he wouldn't be a billionaire unless he, had some smarts. And so SpaceX fascinated me, and obviously, besides Starlink, Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars. Okay, so he wants to build this fleet of 200 starships, and he's testing them now. The first two exploded. One exploded right away. The other one made it to space, and then they had to abort it. So that's where he is now in his quest to colonize Mars. All right. So let's bring up photograph number one, Werner von Braun. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we all know who Werner von Braun is. Okay. Werner von Braun achieved two things in his life that are really remarkable. Uh, One good, one bad. Von Braun was the first person to build a rocket that, with modifications, was capable of reaching space. And it's the typical uh, rocket shape that people grew up with in cartoons. It has a point, bevels out at the belly, slightly goes back in, and has four tail fins. It's an iconic image. And
Mhm.
basically, von Braun, who was a Nazi scientist, rained down hellfire on London for several years. When the Allies um, captured a lot of the Nazi scientists, Russia, the Soviet Union as well, we got von Braun. We got von Braun and about 120 other satellites, scientists, Nazi scientists. And basically, they were given a choice. You could go to trial in Nuremberg and probably hang for war crimes, or you could be part of a secret project called Operation Paperclip, and you can
Mhm.
come to the United States and work on our, secret Cold War weapons program, which he and the other 120 scientists did. So for a long time, he was in New Mexico working on whatever. He eventually, in the 60s, goes to NASA, and he is the father of the Saturn V rocket that took Neil Armstrong to the moon. So he had two remarkable accomplishments in his life. When he got older, when he retired from NASA, he went to work for Fairchild Industries, and his personal secretary was Dr. Carol Rosen, who speaks at Dr. Greer's seminars a lot. She spoke in 2000 or 2001 at the New York Press Club about something very interesting von Braun told her when he was dying of cancer. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I'd like to show the second picture, which is what a V 2 rocket looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
The entire world knows what this looks like. All right. So, what's very interesting is that when von Braun was in New Mexico, during the 50s, he decided to write a science fiction novel. And many people know this too. Elon Musk has even commented on it, saying it was interesting. He wrote a book called Project Mars. And if you could skip to number 4, I put them backwards order. Okay, this is what he wrote in the 1950s. And the this is the this book cover is actually from the original drawings of uh, what the project would look like, and it looks remarkably like a larger version of a V2 rocket.
It's
All right, with the
huge.
tail fins and
Yeah.
its U's. Now, Elon Musk is currently trying to colonize Mars, and if you look at uh, photo number 3, that's Elon Musk's Starship.
Uh-huh.
It
Hmm.
has a startling resemblance to a V2 rocket and the original artwork for Project Mars. All right, the novel that von Braun wrote. In chapter 28 of his novel about the colonization of Mars, von Braun talks about the government and how it would be run on a Mars colony. And
Interesting.
yeah, so if you go to
Mm.
number 5, you will see that the German version, this was not published till 1971, by the way, the year that Elon Musk was born. The leader of the Martian colony would be called the Elon. Okay.
Wow.
And Elon is a Hebrew word. Yeah, it's what a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since Elon Musk was born in 1971 and von Braun died in 1977. So Elon was 6 years old, all right, when von Braun died. So, and this book um, was probably not published till the year Elon was born. So there's the off chance that Elon's father somehow read this book and decided to call his
Mm.
son Elon. Otherwise, there's no other logical connection as to why von Braun used the word Elon. Elon is a Hebrew word meaning oak tree. Okay.
Mm.
Um, so
Sturdy.
Yeah, so here's where we get into it getting a little weird. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
here.
eh, uh, photo number 6. Okay. This is what I was talking about earlier. This was filmed, this was part of a video filmed by a pilot heading towards Vancouver. And basically, when both crews got into Vancouver, they met each other in the cafeteria, started to discuss it, and one of them filed a MUFON report and submitted the video. And it looked like one long cylinder. And the pilot said they thought it was about 60 miles away. It was actually in space, all right, above them. And
Wow.
on the left side is the Falcon 9 rocket. The
Okay.
space there is the release of the satellites. Now, I don't know how many people have ever seen them. I live by a lake that's very dark. Whenever there's a new Starlink launch, I go out and I stand in the middle of darkness, pitch black, and I wait for the Starlink, because there's an app where you can tell exactly when it's going to go over your location. And the new ones are beautiful. They're really, really scary looking. It looks like just a string of lights moving silently, over your head. So, and basically what it is
Slowly
two,
separating.
it
Yeah.
takes about 5 minutes for it to go over your head. All right.
Wow.
So basically, when people see this, they don't know what it is. A lot of people believe that it's some sort of cylinder, and people actually draw these things. All right.
Right.
And depending on your angle, it will look like, if in some people's drawings, a cylinder with lots of portholes. If you're looking at it at a slightly different place on Earth, it'll actually look like 2 rows of portholes in a cylinder, and it's because it's 2 rows of 30 satellites.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to
So
see it once at the Get the Let Out concert at Red Rocks, and it was just surreal, because there they are playing, good old Over the Hills and Far Away up there. And I look up, and here comes Starlink, a big train of them. I'm like, this is cool. So I got it on video. That's the only time I've seen it, but it's an awesome sight. You're right. Why is it different, Bob? Why do they look more beautiful now than they did before? It's just, are they brighter? Are they
no, they're actually getting darker. A lot of
Oh,
astronomers
darker. Okay.
complained that
Okay.
it was interrupting them. So he started, I guess, painting them dark or whatever. So
Oh.
people used to say they look sort of yellowish when we get reports, and people didn't know what they are. Now we're getting reports that they look greenish. Okay, and it's obviously
Interesting.
whatever he did to try to darken them. And the whole point of Starlink is to provide internet service to the world, especially places where you can't get internet service. And just last week, Elon Musk announced that he was going to be using lasers on the Starlinks to reach like cruise ships. Okay. So they've come to another generation of Starlinks,
Wow.
and he plans on covering the earth with 60,000 Starlinks. Okay. And I'll get into that a little bit later. All right. So the whole world is going to be wrapped in, Starlinks, and it's allegedly for internet service, and I believe it is. But I believe that there's a second purpose for it that is darker. Okay. And all right, let me just go to the next one. The problem that I had was when I was doing the Project Aquarius drawing gallery, I started to find what appeared to be the same Starlink phenomenon prior to May of 2019. And I couldn't believe that was possible. And in 2007, a pilot flying across the English Channel basically described what the pilots flying to Vancouver described in 2022. All right. It was actually, he said, 2 long objects with a dark area at the one end. All right. So I started to say, is it possible that Elon Musk was launching Starlinks as early as 2007? Did SpaceX even exist? And then go to number 8, photo number 8. This is from the Yukon in 1996. And basically, this thing's traversing the sky. It could be a Starlink train that somebody is misinterpreting as a long cylinder with portholes. It's actually very similar in length to what you would see going across the sky, and there are those little satellites going around it. So let me just stop right here and explain what the little satellites are, okay? Because this confuses people. To escape Earth's gravity, a Starlink, a Falcon 9 has to be going 17,000 miles per hour. Once it achieves orbital velocity, then it pops these rods, which allow the Falcon 9 to release the Starlink train. So those rods, they're just flipping around at 17,000 miles per hour, going along with the Falcon 9 and the Starlink train. And that's what these little satellites are that people think are like little, drones around the mothership. It's just metal pieces that pop off to allow the Starlinks to deploy. But this is from the Yukon in 1996. All right. So if it's not Starlinks, it's very unusual that we would be seeing the same phenomenon. All right. But I even found a case going back to 1958. And if we go to number 9, this is from the NICAP book of 1964. And basically, at a SAC base, Strategic Air Command in Omaha, Nebraska, at Offutt Air Force Base, a general and upwards of 30 people saw what appeared to be a long cylinder object with satellites around it, moving slowly across the sky. So my question was, could SpaceX or whoever be launching Starlink satellites, decades before Elon Musk was born? Okay, so what was I going to say next? I think that's so in 1956 to make now at this point 1958, the only thing in space is like Sputnik and the U.S. Explorer. Okay, the first satellites. There's nothing else up there. In 1956, and I found this in the Ruppelt files. Ruppelt writes to Professor Lincoln LaPaz, who was the University of New Mexico astronomer who was studying the green fireballs in 1947. And Ruppelt writes to him and says, "I just saw an article that says you can prove that there are already 2 satellites in space of unknown origin." Lincoln LaPaz's secretary wrote back to Ruppelt and said, the Associated Press should never have published that. Professor LaPaz denies he ever said that. But the question is, why would the AP print something like that if, out of whole cloth, unless LaPaz actually did say something to him? So that puts objects of unknown origin in space before Sputnik, okay? And then in 58, we have what looks like a Starlink launch and deployment of Starlinks from a Falcon 9.
I mean, it would make sense, right? That, this is post World War II. We're going to put things up in orbit that we don't want other people to know that we put in orbit to spy on other countries. And right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And back in 1958, some amateur astronomer in his backyard is just going to go, "What is that?" Nobody's going to care or tell him. All right. In 1996, it's a little more difficult because we have NORAD. Astronomers' telescopes are much more sensitive. We're using computers now, but is the government capable of hiding these type of launches as late as 1996 and 2007 so that nobody knows what's going on? It's just my theory. I don't know.
Or is it time travel?
Well, this is where we're going with this. Werner von Braun, when asked how he developed the V2 rocket after World War II, he said we had help. All right. And he never clarified the statement. Now, a young UFO buff whose collection Mindy Toutfest of MUFON had procured for us and will be scanning soon. His name was Hayden Hughes, and he was a UFO buff in the 50s and 60s. He started out at 14 years old. He actually had the Men in Black at his house by the age of 16. He wrote a letter to von Braun, all right, and said, "Do you believe in aliens?" And von Braun wrote back to this kid and said, "It's all apocryphal. There's no proof that UFOs exist, that aliens exist. I've never seen one. And until you can show me one, I don't think that UFOs from other planets visiting the Earth. So
Hmm.
von Braun specifically states he doesn't believe in aliens. So
Okay.
who helped the Nazis? It wasn't the United States. We were at war with the Nazis. It wasn't France, Britain, or Australia. So who else could it be? He was at war with
Elon.
this. He was he was at war with the Soviet Union. China didn't even have an air force, and they were our ally in World War II. So who helped them if not aliens? All right. And my theory is that somehow von Braun and Elon Musk are connected. All right. So the question is, who went backwards or who went forwards? All right. Now, very interesting because this is sort of mythological. Also, like, did the MJ12 group exist? Did the Die Glock project really exist? Die Glock meaning the bell.
Bell.
Right.
What were the Nazis working on? Well, whatever it was, when the Allies advanced, they killed all the scientists that were working on it and destroyed all the evidence. All right. So a lot of people have theorized that it was a time machine. Let's suppose that what crashed at Kecksburg really was Die Glock. All right. Now, let's say the Nazis shot off a whole bunch of them into different time zones in the future. Because here's the problem with building a time machine: you can only go forward. You can go forward as far as you want, but you can only go back to the point where the time machine was built. All right. So let's say Die Glocks made it to our future. They stole information, perhaps from Musk, right? Maybe they went to work as scientists at SpaceX, and then they get back into Die Glock and go back, all right, to Nazi Germany as if they were only gone for a day, even though they may have been gone 15 years stealing information. It's really weird that the Nazis were so far ahead of every other country. They invented the fighter jet, the jet engine. They invented the rocket. They may have invented, flying saucers. All right. How did they get that knowledge so far? They were planning on nuking New York City. All right. How did they get that far ahead of everybody else in technology?
Right.
All right.
There's so many Black Access projects. Wasn't there? And what do you know, Bob, about Project Looking Glass?
I don't know much about it, but I was going to talk to you about Project Brilliant Pebbles. All right.
Okay.
So, so let's go back to Starlink. In 1968, I believe, the very first satellite broadcast around the world was the BBC showing the Beatles in a special singing All You Need Is Love. It was like a love fest type setting. Mick Jagger was there, Donovan was there, and they broadcast All You Need Is Love all over the world with one satellite. And I was always amazed that now in the 21st century, you need 60,000 satellites to broadcast internet. All right. Made me think that there's something else going on with Starlink. So if you go to number 10, this is what a Starlink satellite looks like when it's deployed. It looks like a big movie screen.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like a Venetian blind that opens up. Okay. So I want people to keep this picture in their minds. Now let's go look at the map of Starlink positions, how he wants to cover the globe. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Do you need that many Starlink satellites?
No way.
The internet over the middle of the Pacific Ocean? All right. Now, let's go. Did you know that Starlink was developed as the idea of Starlink was developed as part of Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars. Okay, it was originally designed to be a military weapon. Okay, and there were two ideas at the time on how to do it. Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, thought that we should have satellites in space that could explode a nuclear weapon and shoot an X-ray laser that would take out dozens of enemy satellites. Okay. His idea was considered far-fetched, and they said something like that wouldn't be feasible till the early 21st century, which is now. And it's very interesting that Elon Musk announced last week that he's going to be using lasers, okay, on Starlinks going forward. All right. So they came up with an alternative, and that was called Operation Brilliant Pebbles. And basically, this is the concept of what Operation Brilliant Pebbles satellite is. And it's basically to shoot out thousands and thousands of projectiles to take out hundreds and hundreds of satellites very easy. All right. It looks exactly like a Starlink satellite.
Mhm.
And look at the Brilliant Pebbles coverage map on the globe, which is number 13. It's exactly the same as Starlink. So we're coming to the main point.
Mhm.
When von Braun was working at Fairchild Industries after retiring from NASA, his secretary was Dr. Carol Rosen, and Fairchild Industries was in an indirect way working on the Strategic Defense Initiative, possibly as early as 1977. All right. And von Braun got cancer. And when he was dying, he told Dr. Carol Rosen, he said, Carol, and this is a quote from her, Carol, I want you to know that what's going on in the future is going to be the weaponization of space. And there's going to be certain signs that you should look out for that will happen. One will be that there will be massive terrorist attacks, which began happening in 2001 with the World Trade Center in Bali and
Mhm.
the attacks in France and Paris. All right. And he told her that the second, and that there would be a need for more satellites and, protection for the United States. You have Homeland Security coming into existence after that. He told her the second thing she should watch for is that they're going to be worried about an asteroid hitting Earth, and they're going to have to find a system to deflect asteroids, which is what they're doing right now. They just whacked an asteroid a couple of months ago, but he says it's all a cover for the weaponization of space. And then he told her the third thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a fake alien invasion. All right. That
Mm.
brings us to Project Bluebeam, a book that a guy wrote in 1996. This isn't that, but I wanted this graphic because it basically shows you what they want to do. A fake alien invasion, and I believe that they were testing the system as early as World War One with satellites,
Wow.
where they beam images onto the Earth's atmosphere. And if you look at the Starlink screen, the satellite launcher, it is a perfect movie theater that I believe they're building. Yeah, that they're building like a massive movie projector around the Earth. Okay. And it's going to be able to project a fake alien invasion. It's going to be able to project a fake coming of a messiah. All right. And the guy that wrote this book in 1996, right after he wrote it, the French government took his children away from him, and they put him in jail. He gets out of jail. The next day, he dies of a heart attack. His friend, who was helping him investigate Project Bluebeam, dies a couple of weeks later of a heart attack also. All right. As if they were going to shut him down. So, in the end, the fake alien invasion is to usher in a new world order. And if you see, people like Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and those type of people, that is exactly what they want to do. And so I'm very concerned that the whole Starlink thing had been planned out for
Decades.
half a century or more.
Yeah.
And I think that von Braun,
Yes.
this is it. Von Braun was trying to tell us what was going to come. He used the Elon to let us know about Starlink and what it's really going to be used for.
Mm.
He told his secretary in 1977, before he died, watch out for terrorism attacks, for fake asteroid collisions, and for fake alien invasions. I think von Braun was trying to tell us what Elon Musk and the governments of the world were going to do today.
Wow. And Kathleen
Yeah.
brings up a good point. I mean, I know MUFON had a sighting here in Colorado that shows almost like an obelisk in the sky. People are seeing perhaps projections already. Maybe they're testing things early. What do you think of that, Bob?
Mm.
Yes, there's actually last year, and you can find it in Italy, in Saudi Arabia, and either Brazil or Argentina. People are seeing projections in the sky. of
Right.
angels. Yeah.
This
Incredible.
also, there's a new movie, or I don't know if it's new or not, but on Netflix, there's it's Julia Roberts. I think it's called Leave the World Behind. And it kind of speaks to that. And through that film, I was thinking to myself, are they going to show like a fake alien invasion? And this has been rumored for quite some time, within the UFO community, that this could perhaps happen. And this idea of just a large movie screen where they can project, I mean, that can tie into some of these high strangeness locations that people are
Mhm.
looking to, these arrays underground, sonic weapons, different types of, I don't know, nefarious
Mhm.
activities that, and what do you think too about, is this perhaps why, certain, um, well, not only government, but Air Force is being hush hush because they've been working on these things for decades. Do you
Yeah,
think that's part of the reason?
yeah, it's very interesting that all of a sudden,
Mhm.
um, we're not tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists anymore. Right now, the government is really interested, and is these private corporations coming into existence. Dealing with investigating UFOs with AI, NASA is involved. The people who have debunked most of all. So, and then you have David Grush, all right, saying, I've heard that there's non-human biologics. I've heard that there's off-world crash debris, but he's a former intelligence agent. All right, is he throwing us red herrings? Because the same time that they're saying, oh, we're going to have all these congressional hearings, the Arrow hearings, and this and that, we're going to be transparent. This week, a group of senators in the United States Congress nixed
Right.
the
Sure.
UAPDA and, and
Mhm.
and miniaturized it to the point where Congressman Tim Burchett said, "My colleagues are gutless." All right, so there's this battle going on. But now think about this. Oh, they're talking about transparency on one side. I keep bringing this up because this is one of those stories that fell off the radar screen. When they shot down that Chinese balloon, the next week they shot down 3 objects over the United States, or 2 over the United States, 1 over Canada. That's what my MUFON Journal article's about this month. They shot one down over Alaska, they shot one down over the Yukon, and they shot one down
Mhm.
over Lake Huron.
Sure.
And the Lake Huron object was a hexagon. Okay,
Right.
and my article.
Isn't that the one? That the one too
But
that kind of messed with the instrumentation of the
yes,
aircraft?
yes,
Okay.
Mm.
yep. Um, so they're talking about transparency on one side. If they were really transparent about things, why not show us the fighter jet film footage of the
Right.
shoot down so that we
Right.
can see what it is? So
Right.
they're playing us with this hand, and they're playing us with the other hand, what's really going on. And I think they want to put it in our minds. Ooh, there could be aliens coming soon.
Mhm.
All right, total setup for Project
Mm.
Bluebeam. It really is, for the first time in history, plausible that they could pull off an operation that big.
Wow.
Wow.
Bob, so do you think there's something going on? It seems like is not the science of stuff that's going on is not the science that we're told is, our physics, our known stuff. And um, and how did Werner von Braun know all this stuff? So I'm curious what your thoughts are as far as consciousness, if he was able to, travel in consciousness, or did he, why did he know so much and
Okay,
how?
so let's say, I think it was physical vehicles. So let's say Die Glock existed.
Mm.
All right, these Nazi spies go forward, who have a scientific background, end up getting jobs with, say, SpaceX or NASA in the future. When they collect enough information,
Okay.
sort of like what the Chinese do to us, when they collect enough information, they got back in their Die Glocks and went back to Nazi Germany. And that's how von Braun was able to build the V2 rocket. He got the technology from the future.
That
That's
he invented. That's so it's
That
so
he
kind
invented. Yeah, he didn't.
yes.
And then he tried to tell us, when he had cancer, what he had done,
Mhm.
basically. And he gave us a hint with the Elon.
yeah.
Very fascinating.
Uh,
In one of these hearings, I believe that, who was it that said it? But in the 70s, somebody kind of was trying to blow the whistle on the fact that some of these landed alien craft and alien abductions were our own staged events, or do you recall that, Bob? And what do you think about that? Were they
No,
practicing for that,
I,
or what?
Mm.
I don't know if I don't know that particular incident, but I
Yeah.
believe, I really believe humans are screwing with our timeline. Where they're coming from, I don't know. But
Oh.
I'll give you another one of my favorite stories that I came upon that really is interesting.
Yeah.
In, I believe it was 581 AD, the king of Yemen was going to attack Mecca. He had become a Christian, and the Meccans at that time, which is now Saudi Arabia, they were animists. They believed that, like, rocks were gods, or whatever. All right. So they weren't Islamist yet. All right. So when he came with his big army, with his elephants and stuff like that, uh, a ragtag bunch of Meccans came out to meet him, including Muhammad's grandfather, and they were
Oh.
outnumbered. They were going to get wiped out. All of a sudden, in the Quran, in one of the surahs, like like a poem type set of, prophecies, uh, big black birds with pebbles in their mouths came over the Yemeni army and essentially decimated them, wiped them out to the man. All right. And in later
Oh.
Islamic commentaries, they also say that the skin on the Yemeni soldiers fell off their bodies. All right.
Mm.
So,
Radiation.
so look at that. Yes. So to me, all right, it's Nuremberg 1561 all over again. These were modern 20th or 21st century fighter jets with cluster bombs, radioactive cluster bombs, taking out an entire army in minutes. All right. Why? Well, later that year, Mohammed was born in Mecca. So I believe that there was
Wow.
timeline interference to ensure that Muhammad would be born.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So my question, Bob, maybe this is kind of off topic, but do you think that it's a block universe then to be able to mess with timelines like that,
Do
or
I think it's a what universe?
a block universe? I mean, that all the times already exist, and so we can just go, or
Well, yeah, but a lot of
well,
one of the theories is that time is like coordinates on a map. You always have New York, Chicago, and L.A. in one place, and it's whether or
right.
not you can
That's true.
access it or not. All right, is the question. Um, there's a lot of scientists working on that right now. Actually, people like Eric Davis and stuff are trying to figure out how to bend space time. He did an entire white paper on it that I read. So yeah, I think it's feasible. And I think
Yeah.
it's feasible. Years ago, they
Mhm.
used to say, well, aliens would never come here if they exist because the distances are too vast. All right. They already know mathematically how to bend space time. So you could be at one end of the known universe and be at the other end in literally a second if you have the technology to bend the space time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Or they,
fascinating.
yeah.
Um, let me ask you something though. What do you think we can look out for if something like this occurs? Let's say this is going on. First of all, when I know you can't give a prediction, but are we
Mhm.
talking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in our lifetime? And let's say all of a sudden we're seeing craft and there's a alien invasion. I mean, how are we going to know if it's real or fake?
Right,
What do you think of that?
people are gonna panic, and if the government's
Hmm.
in on it, the media is gonna be in on it. And it's
Yeah.
people like us, who study this all the time, we won't be fooled by it. It's like I'll be telling my neighbor, don't believe this, all right? But think about the vast majority of people in the world,
Hmm.
all right? That not the entire world isn't educated like the United States or Europe. I mean, there's vast places on Earth where people would fall for something like this, okay? And it will cause panic, all right? It will cause economies to collapse, and then they throw in the fake messiah on top of it, and it's like,
Okay.
oh, we need the government to
Yeah.
save us. We all need to
Oh, got
unite
it.
into one world order.
Mm.
And
So
there are going to be lots of people, I think, that fall for it. Time wise, when do I think it could happen? Well, the way things are going right now in the world, I think it could be tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Ah.
Mhm.
It's like,
2 minutes, get your act together.
and again, this is only my theory. I could be so
Right.
full of it, it's not funny. You know what I mean? But
At
I'm
least you
see,
admit it. I like
yeah,
that. Ah, okay, I'm here to tell you I'm full of crap. No, I don't know. I think, you know what,
None of us
Bob,
know.
you do your research, and just knowing how dogged you are about going through these archival files and making the
Yeah.
connections. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. Our listeners, you, me, Tara, all we're looking for those connections, those puzzle pieces.
Mhm.
How does that? And
Yeah.
you're the master at that. So if you're connecting these dots, and then you're going deep into the time, like time is not linear, right? It's
Right.
all out there, and I believe it's feasible too. Like, so I don't know. You could be onto something.
The
So,
guy who's the master of patterns was Jim Mars. All right,
mm,
that
yeah.
guy
Oh.
was crazy into patterns, and the other thing is that we are in a matrix, all right, and there's actually scientists today that are trying to come up with like thought type experiments to see if we might actually be in a computer simulation, and
Ooh.
one of the interesting theories that they have is that if we are in a massive CPU, okay, there's got to be ways to test if the CPU is drawing too much energy. All right. So one way you can do that
Oh.
is when you get close to a black hole, time slows down because of the enormous amount of energy. So does a black hole actually slow down the CPU's program? All right, operating system, because it's using so much energy. So that that is a way they're trying to think about whether or not we are
Huh.
in a massive computer. Yeah, it's
Right.
really crazy the ideas that people are coming up with right now.
Right. And that ties back into Elon
Oh.
Musk saying that the chances of us being a base reality is very, 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 very small. And
Very.
then that gets into a whole other topic. Like, if we are in this
Mhm.
mass game, or whatever you want to call it, I call it a game.
Mhm.
Maybe like Tara's in mine and Bob's in mine, and but maybe there's like endless amounts and infinite amounts, and everybody is having different experiences and different
Mhm,
realities. So
mhm.
Different.
And another thing about Musk is that one of the things in the book Project Bluebeam is that the governments are going to use mind control devices and a digital currency. All right, and think about this: they're trying to implement digital currencies right now. And what's one of Elon Musk's other companies? It's Neuralink. All right. So there's, I
Um,
mean,
yep.
are these just all disparate facts, or is it a coincidence, or is there something going on?
Yeah, I'm neural linked up. Where does Bob
yeah.
Bigelow play a role in any of this? Is he connected into any of this? Or is
Uh,
he just out there on his own planet?
yeah, I don't know, but do you know how he got interested in UFOs? Do you know the
No,
story?
I don't.
When he was a boy, his grandparents got run off the road by an orb, by a red
Yes,
orb, into a
Oh.
I do
ditch.
remember hearing that. That's
And
right.
when they told him the story, he said, "I'm going to find out what this is," and he's dedicated his whole life to trying to find out what it is.
Right.
Wow.
Huh.
Hey, Bob, when you were on the show last time, you mentioned something about subliminal advertising. Does that ring a bell, or what? I had
No,
some notes about that. What was that?
I don't remember talking about that. I took college courses
The
in
subliminal.
subliminal advertising. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean how
So,
they in a glass of vodka with ice cubes, there's naked women, and they can
yeah.
suddenly make you think. I mean, they've been doing that for decades. All right.
Right.
If you go into a supermarket
Uh,
and you listen closely to the music that's playing, sometimes you'll hear, "Be a good citizen. Don't shoot."
Oh.
Buy peanut
All right.
butter. Buy Jif.
Yeah, by
Oh my
Jeff.
Buy
gosh.
Jif.
So
They
you
really do that. In the
Cheesy
well,
90s,
poofs are good for you. Cheesy poofs are good for you.
Cartman.
I mean,
So do you
as early as the
yeah.
1960s, the CIA has the ability to put thoughts into people's heads. Imagine what they can do now that we don't know about.
Well, there's
Uh,
all these commercials now with aliens, and you didn't used to see that, but everything now is making a connection with aliens. And I'm wondering if that's part of the control, or if that's part of some of the message that's conditioning us to
Yes, and there's actually a term for that. It's called gradualism. All right.
gradualism.
Yeah, where they
gradually.
gradually make you
Hmm.
acclimate to a certain idea or concept. All right.
Wow.
So yeah.
We should have a word of the day on the show, or a word of the week. The word of the week is
Gradualism.
gradualism.
You got to spell it though.
Yeah, we'll have to prepare. I mean, that happened just the other day. And I mean, it's one thing to search something in a Google search and then have it pop up on your Facebook ads and everything. I get that. Okay, I've accepted that that's happening. If
Yeah.
I'm looking at something on the internet, there all of a sudden it's in my face. Buy me, buy me, buy me.
Mhm.
But now, just recently, I was at a well, I don't remember what store it was, some store, and we're just looking at an item, just talking about an item. I'm not searching it at all on the internet or my phone. And on Facebook today, that very item pops up, and it's a unique item. It's just something. It's like a wooden toolbox kind of thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even search this, and here it is now on my Facebook. So it's listening to us too. Do you know anything about that?
No, but I know that it's happened to me also. All right.
Ugh.
It's like I had to go to a doctor about my shoulder, and before I even made the phone call, I saw an ad on Facebook for like laparoscopic surgery. I'm going, how did they know that?
AI.
It's actually very terrifying.
Mhm.
So we only have, I don't know how many minutes left, maybe 5 minutes till we wrap up. But with all the work you've done on this Project Aquarius and Project Mars, what stands out to you, Bob? What's some of your like, oh my gosh, like,
The things I think people will find the Ruppelt files very, very interesting. He seemed like he was a really, really nice guy. He was on the fence about it, but he had opinions on everybody. He did not like he
like
did not
that.
like he didn't like Menzel at all. All right, that will come out when you read his files. But
Wow.
he was very fond of Hynek. He thought that Hynek had a curiosity and believed that Hynek would eventually become a believer. And it turned out that
He
Hynek
did.
did. All right. So
Mhm.
so I think Rootbelt was really an interesting set of files to read. And my favorite, of course, because I did it because I like this kind of thing, was the drawings gallery and the patterns that I found, because I'm very visually stimulated,
Yeah, me
and
too.
I think a lot of people will find the drawings gallery really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I find it
That was my
interesting that you found correlations between like, wow, we're getting in a lot of oblong, now we're getting a lot of triangles. I mean, that does make a statement,
Yeah.
that says something. And I've noticed that too, and that's wonderful about those books that you like that go like decade to decade. Who's the author again? I have
Albert
one
Ros-
of the
Albert
yeah,
Rosales, the humanoid series,
yeah,
The Others Among
Okay.
Us. Yeah.
right.
The other thing in the drawings gallery is it's not only vehicles. There we have a lot of entity drawings, what people see, a lot of scary ones with the entities over the bed. They're really scary. And we also have lots and lots of symbols that people believe
Oh, now
they
that's
were given.
Cool.
And my ultimate goal is to grab those symbols, throw them into an
Yeah.
AI program, and see if it's gibberish or if there really is something to it. Yeah.
Oh.
That's interesting. I know
That is.
Tara did a little segment on here where she one week did some of the crafts that is in the Mars
Mhm.
database and the ET entities. And
Mhm.
I find that to be really fascinating because there's so many similarities yet differences. What
Hmm.
kind of speaks to me that we play a role in what we perceive as well, in my
Yeah.
opinion, you know.
Well, that's a very quantum mechanical view that the observer, you know, interferes with, the experience by just observing it. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
And are they giving us screen memories to remember things by? So
yes.
that's the
right.
other thing.
Yeah, and the
So,
owls and Mike Clellan. I mean,
yeah.
did you come across drawings of owls or any other things like that?
Yes, what's interesting in the CMS, if you're a MUFON member and you can go to the 135,000 cases, you can do keyword searches, and I don't think many of our members know that. And if you
Yeah.
type in owl, you'll be surprised at how many hits you get. All right.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Cool
I
tip.
totally believe that screen memories are an actual phenomenon with
Yeah,
the UFO.
Yeah.
for
Very
sure.
cool.
Well, I want to take this time to thank you, Bob Spearing, for being here, and thank you for your unbelievable work and dedication. Honestly,
Incredible.
you do incredible work, and I really
Hmm.
want to thank you for that. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Chanel, and thank you for sharing your sighting story. That was really
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you to Bill Skywatcher and KGRA, and especially to all our listeners. And I want to wish everybody out there, whatever you celebrate, be happy, be relaxed. Don't stress about this UFO invasion. We all know
Yeah.
it's not real. So we can sit back with our hot cocoa.
Hey, could I just tell Bill,
Yes.
thank you very much for KGRA's support and helping us
Yes.
promote
Yes.
the Project Aquarius. Thank you, Bill, and
Yeah.
everybody else at
All
KGRA.
right.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great night. We'll see you in not next week, but the week after. Have a good Christmas, everybody. Good night.
Bye.